Chen sat on the cold bathroom floor of their tiny apartment, holding her younger sister Lily's medical bills in trembling hands. The numbers blurred together through her tears. $47,000. The amount might as well have been $47 million. Outside the bathroom door, Lily slept peacefully on their shared bed, her small chest rising and falling with the help of an oxygen machine that hummed constantly in the background. Emma pressed her fist against her mouth to muffle the sobs that threatened to escape. She could not let Lily hear her breakdown. Not again. 3 months had passed since their father collapsed at his construction job. The heart attack took him before the ambulance arrived. Within weeks, Emma discovered the truth about their finances. Her father had spent every penny on Lily's treatments, sacrificing his own health insurance to keep their sister alive. Now he was gone, and the medical bills continued piling up like an avalanche. Ready to bury them both, Emma had dropped out of community college immediately. She took 3 jobs: morning shifts at a bakery, afternoon hours cleaning office buildings, and night work at a 24-hour diner. She slept for hours if she was lucky. Her friends stopped calling after she canceled plans for the 100th time. Her art supplies gathered dust in the closet, dreams of becoming a designer fading like old photographs. But no matter how hard she worked, the money never stretched far enough. Lily needed new medications every month. The oxygen machine rental ate up half their income. Physical therapy appointments cost more than their rent. And now, the hospital threatened to stop Lily's treatment unless they paid at least $20,000 up front. Emma had tried everything. She applied for charity programs, but the waiting lists stretched for years. She started a crowdfunding campaign that raised $300 before people stopped sharing it. She even considered taking out predatory loans until she realized the interest rates would destroy them. An unexpected visitor, the knock on their apartment door, came on a gray Tuesday morning. Emma answered it with flour still on her apron from her bakery shift, expecting the landlord or another bill collector. Instead, she found her Aunt Margaret standing in the hallway, wearing a cream-colored suit and carrying an expensive leather handbag. Margaret had always been the wealthy side of their family. Married to a corporate lawyer and living in a Connecticut mansion, she visited once every few years, usually to remind everyone how well she had done for herself. Emma's father had barely tolerated her. "You look terrible," Margaret announced, walking past Emma without invitation. Her sharp eyes scanned the cramped apartment with obvious distaste. "When was the last time you slept a full night?" Emma closed the door slowly, too exhausted to be offended. "What do you want, Aunt Margaret?" Margaret settled onto their worn couch as if testing its cleanliness first. "I heard about your situation. About Lily's treatments. About the hospital threatening to stop her care." Emma's defenses rose immediately. "We're managing. No, you're drowning." Margaret opened her handbag and pulled out a folder. "I have a solution. It's unconventional, but it will solve every problem you have." Emma remained standing, arms crossed. She knew Margaret never offered help without strings attached. "What kind of solution?" Margaret placed the folder on the coffee table between them. "A marriage arrangement. I know someone who needs to marry quickly for complicated business reasons. In exchange for a 6-month marriage, he will pay off every debt you have. Provide the best medical care for Lily and set you both up in a proper home. No questions asked." The words hit Emma like cold water. "You want me to marry a stranger? It's purely a contract. No expectations beyond appearing married for 6 months. After that, you're free to divorce with enough money to secure Lily's future permanently." Margaret's voice softened slightly. "Emma, that hospital will turn Lily away in 3 days. 3 days. This solves everything." Emma sat down heavily, her mind racing. The offer sounded insane, something from a ridiculous movie plot. But the desperation crushing her chest made even insane ideas seem logical. Who is this person? What does he want from me? His name is Nathan Pierce. He's a businessman who values his privacy. The marriage allows him to access certain family trusts that require him to be married. It's legal, straightforward, and temporary. Emma stared at the folder, her hands shaking. This sounds illegal. Or dangerous. Or both. Margaret leaned forward. "I promise you it's neither. I've known Nathan's family for years. He's a good man in a complicated situation. You would be helping each other." She paused, her expression becoming almost gentle. "Your father would want Lily to live, Emma. He died trying to give her that chance. Don't let his sacrifice be for nothing." The words struck deep. Emma thought of her father working double shifts, skipping meals, ignoring his own chest pains because Lily needed another treatment. She thought of Lily's quiet voice asking if Emma was tired, offering to eat less so they could save money. She thought of the hospital administrator's cold voice on the phone saying they had exhausted their payment plans. The first meeting 2 days later, Emma walked into a small coffee shop in Brooklyn, her heart hammering against her ribs. Margaret had arranged the meeting, insisting Nathan wanted to talk before any decisions were made. Emma wore her only decent dress, a simple navy blue outfit she had bought years ago for her high school graduation. She spotted him immediately, not because he stood out, but because he looked so carefully ordinary. He sat in the back corner wearing a gray sweater and dark jeans, his attention focused on a book. His hair was slightly messy, falling across his forehead in a way that suggested he forgot to comb it. He looked young, maybe late 20s, with warm brown eyes and an uncertain smile. When Emma approached, he stood quickly, almost knocking over his coffee. "Emma, I'm Nathan." His voice was soft, gentle, completely lacking the arrogance she expected from someone buying a wife. They shook hands. His grip was firm but brief, as if he worried about making her uncomfortable. They sat down, and for a long moment, neither spoke. The coffee shop bustled around them with the usual morning chaos. But their corner felt strangely quiet. Nathan broke the silence first. "I know this situation must seem bizarre. Margaret explained your circumstances, and I want you to know I'm not trying to take advantage of your hardship. This arrangement benefits me, but only if it genuinely helps you too." Emma studied him carefully, trying to understand what kind of man would propose this. "Why do you need to get married so urgently?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "My family has certain expectations tied to inheritance and business control. Being married satisfies those requirements. I know it sounds cold and transactional, but I promise the arrangement is exactly what Margaret described. 6 months, no expectations, and your sister gets the care she needs." Something in his voice rang true. Emma had learned to detect lies after months of dealing with debt collectors and insurance agents. Nathan spoke with uncomfortable honesty, as if the situation embarrassed him more than her. "What if I change my mind?" Emma asked quietly. "Then you walk away. No penalties, no consequences. I'll even help with Lily's medical bills regardless, because no child should suffer due to our country's healthcare system." His eyes met hers with surprising intensity. "I don't want you to feel trapped, Emma. I want you to feel like you have a choice." Emma felt something crack inside her chest, the wall she had built around her emotions to survive the past 3 months. This stranger offered her more kindness than most people she had known her entire life. She thought of Lily waiting at home, tired and pale, asking when she could play outside again like other kids. She made her decision in the space between one breath and the next. "Okay," Emma whispered. "I'll do it." Nathan's expression flooded with relief mixed with something else she could not quite identify. Guilt, perhaps, or maybe hope. He reached across the table slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently squeezed her hand. "Q," he said softly. "I promise I'll make this as easy as possible for you." As Emma left the coffee shop an hour later with a signed contract and a check for $20,000, she had no idea that the quiet man in the gray sweater was hiding a secret that would soon shock the entire world. Emma moved into the apartment Nathan had arranged within a week. The place sat in a quiet neighborhood in Brooklyn. Nothing extravagant, but worlds away from the cramped studio she and Lily had shared. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and windows that actually let in sunlight. Lily cried happy tears when she saw her own room for the first time, complete with a new bed and stuffed animals Nathan had somehow known to include. Nathan maintained a respectful distance. He had his own bedroom and spent most evenings working on his laptop at the small dining table. He dressed simply, always in worn jeans and faded sweaters that looked like they had survived countless wash cycles. He cooked simple meals and left notes reminding Emma to eat. Small gestures that felt more thoughtful than any grand romantic gesture could, yet something about him never quite fit. Together properly, Emma first noticed it during their second week living together. She had come home early from her bakery shift to find Nathan on the phone in his room, his door slightly open. His voice carried a tone she had never heard before, sharp and commanding with an edge of absolute authority. I said no negotiations. The offer stands as written, or we walk away entirely. Because I decide what this company does, and I decide we're not compromising our workers' benefits for a merger. End of discussion. Emma froze in the hallway. That voice belonged to someone who commanded boardrooms, not a mid-level finance worker. When Nathan emerged moments later, he was back to his gentle, quiet self, asking if she wanted tea. Unraveling mysteries, the inconsistencies multiplied, like puzzle pieces that refused to form a clear picture. Nathan claimed to work remotely for a tech investment firm, yet Emma never heard him attend video meetings or discuss colleagues. His laptop bore no company stickers. His work calls always happened behind closed doors with voices that called him Sir and Mr. Pierce. One afternoon, Emma returned from grocery shopping to find a black sedan parked across the street. The driver wore a dark suit and sunglasses despite the cloudy weather. When Nathan left the apartment for a coffee run, the sedan followed at a discreet distance. Emma watched from the window, her confusion growing. Why would a regular finance worker need security following him? Then there were the restaurants. Nathan occasionally took Emma and Lily out for dinner, always choosing small, family-owned places. But Emma noticed how staff would pause when he entered, how managers would appear from the back to greet him personally, how meals would arrive with extra courses they had not ordered. Nathan would smile awkwardly and insist he just had one of those faces people remember. But Emma was not fooled. She had worked in food service long enough to recognize when someone important walked through the door. The way the hostess straightened her posture, the way the chef personally checked on their table, the way the bill always arrived with mysterious discounts. These were not reactions to a forgettable finance worker. The biggest clue came from Lily herself. Her new doctor, arranged by Nathan, worked at the best children's hospital in New York during their first appointment. Lily had needed emergency tests that typically required weeks of insurance approvals. The doctor made a single phone call, mentioned Nathan's name, and the tests happened within an hour. Emma confronted him that evening after Lily had gone to sleep. She found Nathan at the dining table, surrounded by paperwork he quickly shuffled into a folder when she approached. "Who are you really?" Emma asked, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. Nathan looked up, genuine surprise crossing his features. "What do you mean?" "I mean the security following you. The way people treat you in restaurants. The fact that Lily's doctor can make the impossible happen with one phone call mentioning your name?"
Oh.
Emma sat down across from him. "You're not just some finance worker, Nathan. I'm not stupid." Careful revelations. Nathan's expression shifted through several emotions: fear, resignation, and finally something that looked like relief. He set down his pen and folded his hands on the table, staring at them as if gathering courage. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm not just a finance worker. I'm more involved in the business world than I led you to believe. But I simplified things because I didn't want to overwhelm you or make you feel like you were entering something more complicated than necessary." Emma waited, sensing he was choosing his words with extreme care. My family's company is larger than I initially suggested. I have responsibilities that require a certain level of security and privacy. The marriage contract was real and legitimate, but my reasons for needing it are tied to business complications I'm still not at liberty to fully explain." He finally met her eyes. "I promise I'm not doing anything illegal or dangerous. I'm just trying to protect something important while also helping you and Lily." That part was completely honest. Emma studied his face, searching for deception. She found only exhaustion and a vulnerability that made him look younger than his years. "What kind of company?" "Investment management, corporate holdings, some technology ventures." He waved his hand vaguely. "It's boring business stuff that I try not to bring home because it consumes enough of my life already," was not the complete truth. Emma knew that with absolute certainty, but she also sensed that pushing harder would only make him retreat further behind his carefully constructed walls. Whatever Nathan was hiding, he was hiding it to protect someone, possibly including her. Small kindness. Despite the mysteries, Emma found herself trusting Nathan in ways that defied logic. He proved his character not through grand declarations, but through countless small actions that revealed his true nature. When Lily had nightmares about their father, Nathan stayed up with her, reading stories in his gentle voice until she fell back asleep. When Emma caught a terrible flu, he took 3 days off work to care for both sisters, making soup and managing Lily's medications without complaint. When Emma's old bakery fired her for taking too many days off for Lily's appointments, Nathan made calls that resulted in her getting hired at a better bakery with flexible hours and higher pay. He never asked for gratitude or acknowledgement. He simply did these things as if caring for them had become as natural as breathing. One evening, Emma found him sitting on the couch with Lily, helping her with homework. Lily was laughing at something Nathan had said, her face bright with happiness Emma had not seen in months. The oxygen machine hummed in the background, but for the first time, it sounded like background noise rather than a constant reminder of illness. Nathan glanced up and caught Emma watching. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding that transcended their contractual arrangement. Emma realized with startling clarity that Nathan was not simply fulfilling an obligation. He genuinely cared about them. The phone call late one night, Emma woke to raised voices from the living room. She crept to her door and listened, her heart pounding. Nathan was on the phone, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. My priority is keeping Emma and Lily safe from this circus. Long pause. No, absolutely not. They don't attend any public events. They don't get photographed. They don't become part of this story. His voice dropped to something dangerous. If one reporter shows up at their door, I shut down the entire media division. Do you understand me? Emma's breath caught. Media division? What kind of investment manager had the power to shut down media divisions? Nathan continued, his voice breaking slightly. I won't let what happened to Claire happen to them. I won't survive that again. Another pause, then quieter, because I care about them too much already. That's why. Emma backed away from the door, her mind spinning. Who was Claire? What had happened that haunted Nathan so deeply he could not speak of it? And what kind of man had she actually married? She returned to bed but could not sleep. Every piece of evidence pointed to Nathan being someone far more important and powerful than he pretended. Yet he lived simply, dressed modestly, and treated them with a kindness that felt genuine rather than performative, growing connections as weeks passed. Emma found herself watching Nathan more carefully, trying to solve the mystery of who he really was. She noticed how he typed on his laptop with incredible speed, his fingers flying across keys as he managed what seemed like dozens of conversations simultaneously. She observed how he would receive calls at all hours, speaking in languages she did not recognize, fluent French, perfect Mandarin, something that might have been Russian, but she also noticed softer things. How he always made sure Lily had her favorite snacks. How he learned Emma's coffee order and had it ready each morning. How he asked about her day and actually listened to the answers, remembering small details she mentioned in passing. One Saturday afternoon, Nathan surprised them both by taking them to an art supply store. He handed Emma a credit card and told her to buy whatever she needed to start designing again. When Emma protested about the cost, he simply said, "Your dreams matter, Emma. Don't let circumstances steal them permanently." Emma walked through the store in a daze, selecting sketchbooks and colored pencils, fabric swatches and design tools she had not touched in months. Lily bounced excitedly beside her, choosing art supplies of her own. When they finished, the total came to over $300. Nathan did not even blink. That evening, Emma set up a small workspace in the corner of the living room. Nathan brought her tea and asked if she would show him her designs sometime. The request felt genuine, not obligatory. Emma found herself agreeing, surprised by how much she wanted to share this part of herself with him. The wedding announcement, everything changed on a Tuesday evening in late October. Emma was sketching while Lily did homework and Nathan worked on his laptop. His phone rang with a tone Emma had never heard before, harsh and insistent. Nathan's face went pale as he answered. When? He asked sharply. A pause. How did they find out? Another pause, longer this time. No, absolutely not. Cancel it. Cancel everything. He hung up and sat frozen, his hands gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. Emma set down her sketchbook. Nathan, what's wrong? He looked at her with an expression of pure anguish. Someone leaked information about our marriage contract to the press. They're planning to run a story tomorrow morning identifying me and connecting me to you and Lily. Emma's stomach dropped. Identifying you as what? Nathan stood abruptly, pacing to the window. He pressed his forehead against the glass, his shoulders rigid with tension. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Emma, I need to tell you the truth. The whole truth? And after I do, you have every right to take Lily and walk away from this marriage immediately. Emma stood slowly, fear and curiosity warring inside her chest. What truth? Nathan turned to face her, and in his eyes, she saw years of carefully hidden pain and loneliness. My full name is Nathan Pierce Rothwell. My family owns Rothwell Global Holdings, one of the largest private investment firms in the country. I'm not just involved in the business world, Emma. I'm the primary decision maker for a company that manages over $200 billion in assets. The room spun. Emma grabbed the back of the couch for support. You're a billionaire? The third wealthiest person in America, according to last year's rankings. Nathan's voice cracked. I've spent 5 years hiding from public attention after my fiancée. Claire was killed in a car accident caused by paparazzi chasing us. I disappeared from society entirely, managing everything remotely, refusing all public appearances. The marriage contract was my family's attempt to force me back into the world. They insisted I needed to be married to access certain trusts and voting rights. Emma could not breathe, could not think. The quiet man who made her tea and read stories to Lily was one of the richest people in the entire country. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. Because I wanted you to know me as just Nathan. Not the fortune, or the name, or the expectations. Just me. His eyes shone with unshed tears. And because I was terrified that once you knew, you'd see me differently. Everyone does. Before Emma could respond, Nathan's phone rang again. He answered with a resigned sigh. Yes. His expression shifted to shock. What? How is that possible? I specifically ordered no media presence at all. He listened for a long moment, then slowly lowered the phone. When he looked at Emma, his face had gone completely white. Someone scheduled a wedding ceremony for this Friday. A public ceremony at Rothwell Tower. They've already sent invitations to every major media outlet in the country. My family is forcing this into the open whether I want it or not. Emma sat down heavily, her legs giving out. In 4 days, she would be standing in front of the world, marrying a man she barely knew. A man who had just revealed himself to be someone completely different from who she thought, and somewhere in the chaos of her racing thoughts, one question burned brightest. If Nathan had hidden something this enormous, what else was he not telling her? The next 3 days passed in a blur of chaos that Emma could barely process. Nathan's revelation had shattered the quiet life they had built, replacing it with a whirlwind of attorneys, security consultants, and public relations specialists who descended on their apartment like an invading army. Nathan tried to shield Emma and Lily from the worst of it, but the truth was inescapable. News outlets had already begun running speculative stories about the mysterious Nathan Rothwell, emerging from 5 years of total seclusion. Reporters camped outside their building. Camera drones buzzed past their windows until security teams knocked them from the sky. Emma watched. Nathan transformed before her eyes. The gentleman who made tea and read bedtime stories still existed, but now she saw the other side of him. The executive who commanded rooms with a single word, who made decisions worth millions of dollars without hesitation, who carried the weight of thousands of employees' livelihoods on his shoulders. Yet, even in his most authoritative moments, he remained impossibly kind to her and Lily. When a PR consultant suggested Emma needed a complete makeover to look appropriate for cameras, Nathan fired the woman on the spot. When security wanted to separate Lily for her protection, Nathan refused, insisting the sisters stay together. "I don't care what protocol demands," he told his head of security, a stern woman named Victoria. "Emma's family stays intact. Non-negotiable." Emma found herself studying this new version of Nathan, trying to reconcile the billionaire with the man who had sat on their couch helping a 10-year-old with math homework. The contradictions made her head spin, yet somehow they made him more real, not less. Lily's question on Thursday evening, the night before the wedding. Emma sat with Lily in their bedroom while Nathan dealt with yet another crisis in his office. Lily had been unusually quiet all day, processing the sudden changes in her own way. "Emma." Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Is Nathan still going to be my friend after tomorrow?" Emma's heart clenched. She pulled her sister close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Of course he is. Why would you think otherwise? Because everyone keeps calling him important names and saying he's really powerful. Important people don't usually care about kids like me." Lily twisted her hands in her lap. "I thought he liked us because we were normal. But now everything's different." Emma struggled to find the right words. She had been grappling with the same fears herself. "Nathan hasn't changed, sweetie. We just learned more about him. He's still the same person who reads you stories and makes terrible jokes at breakfast. But what if he was only nice because he was pretending?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. "What if the real Nathan is too busy and important to want us around?" Before Emma could answer, Nathan's voice came softly from the doorway. "May I come in?" Both sisters turned to find him standing there in his usual worn sweater, his expression gentle and heartbroken. He had clearly heard everything. He crossed the room slowly and knelt beside the bed so he was at Lily's eye level. "Lily, I need you to understand something very important," Nathan said quietly. "The money and the company and all the complicated business stuff, those are things I manage. But they're not who I am. Who I am is the person who feels lucky every single day that I get to have breakfast with you and your sister. The person who thinks your drawings are masterpieces. The person who considers you both family, not because of any contract, but because you made room in your lives for me." Lily studied his face with the brutal honesty only children possess. "Promise? Even after tomorrow, when everyone knows who you really are?" Nathan held out his pinky finger. "I promise. Nothing about how I feel changes just because other people finally know the truth." Lily linked her pinky with his, and Nathan pulled her into a gentle hug. Over her sister's head, Emma met Nathan's eyes and saw the raw emotion there. The fear that they might not believe him mixed with desperate hope that they would. The wedding day Friday morning arrived with the weight of inevitability. Emma woke before dawn to find Nathan already dressed in a dark suit, staring out the living room window at the city lights. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes suggesting he had not slept at all. "Second thoughts?" Emma asked softly, joining him at the window. Nathan turned and his expression softened when he saw her. "About marrying you?" "Never. About dragging you into this public nightmare. Constantly." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Emma's breath caught. "This isn't what you think," Nathan said quickly. "Well, it is a ring, but I need to explain something first." He opened the box to reveal a simple gold band with a single small diamond. "This was my grandmother's wedding ring. She was the only person in my family who ever treated me like I mattered more than the company. When she died, she left me a letter saying that, when I found someone who saw me as just Nathan, I should give them this ring." Emma stared at the delicate band, overwhelmed. "Nathan, I can't accept this. Our marriage is just a contract. Is it?" Nathan's voice was barely a whisper, because somewhere over the past few weeks it stopped feeling like a contract to me. It started feeling like coming home. He took a shaky breath. "I'm not asking you to love me or even to stay beyond our agreement. I'm just asking you to know that what I feel for you and Lily is real. Whatever happens today, that part is completely true." Emma's eyes burned with unshed tears. She had been so focused on discovering Nathan's secrets that she had not allowed herself to acknowledge her own growing feelings. The way her heart jumped when he smiled. The comfort she felt in his presence. The realization that their apartment felt empty when he was not there. "Put it on," she whispered. Nathan's hands trembled as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had been waiting for her all along. The ceremony Rothwell. Towers stood like a monument to American capitalism. 90 floors of glass and steel dominating the Manhattan skyline. Emma had seen it countless times, but never imagined she would stand inside its marble lobby, surrounded by security guards and elegant strangers who whispered behind expensive handbags. The wedding had been planned with military precision by Nathan's family, who Emma had still not met. They had insisted on a private ceremony on the tower's top floor with only select guests. But somehow, some way, a live stream had started. Broadcasting from inside the venue, before anyone realized what was happening, Emma stood in a private room, wearing a silk gown that some designer had created overnight. It was beautiful, but felt like a costume, something meant for someone else's life. Lily sat beside her in a lovely blue dress, holding Emma's hand tightly. "You look like a princess," Lily whispered. "A nervous princess," Emma managed a weak smile. Through the closed doors, she could hear the gathering crowd. The murmur of voices belonging to people who existed in a world she had only seen on television. Senators, celebrities, business leaders whose decisions shaped the economy. And she was supposed to walk out there and marry in front of all of them? A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Victoria, the head of security, entered looking unusually tense. "Miss Chen, we have a situation. Someone has started a live stream of the ceremony. It's already been viewed by over 3 million people. We're trying to shut it down, but the damage is done. The wedding is now public." Emma's stomach dropped. "Does Nathan know? He's aware? He wanted me to tell you that if you want to call this off, he'll handle everything. No consequences, no judgment. He'll escort you and Lily out through a private exit right now if that's what you need." Emma looked at Lily, then at the ring on her finger, then at her own reflection in the mirror. She thought about Nathan kneeling beside Lily's bed making promises he clearly intended to keep. She thought about his confession that morning, the vulnerability in his voice when he admitted his feelings were real. "No," Emma said firmly. "We're doing this." Victoria nodded with something that might have been respect. "Then let's get you married." The moment of truth, the ballroom was exactly as overwhelming as Emma had feared. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. Hundreds of guests turned to watch as she entered, their faces a mix of curiosity, judgment, and calculation. Cameras from the unauthorized live stream captured everything, broadcasting her terror to millions of strangers. But then Emma saw Nathan standing at the altar, and the rest of the room faded slightly. He wore a flawless black suit, but more noticeably, he wore a strange black oxygen mask that covered most of his face. Emma's steps faltered in confusion. Was he sick? Is this some bizarre protection from the public eye? Nathan's eyes met hers over the mask, and even though she could not see his expression fully, she recognized the fear and hope swirling in his gaze. He was as terrified as she was, she realized. Despite his billions and his power, he was just as vulnerable in this moment. The officiant began speaking, but Emma barely heard the words. Her focus remained locked on Nathan, on the way his hands trembled slightly, on the subtle rise and fall of his chest as he tried to control his breathing. Around them, the live stream viewer count climbed into the tens of millions. Outside, helicopters circled the building. The world was watching, judging, speculating. Then Nathan reached up toward the mask, and the entire ballroom seemed to inhale collectively. Emma's heart hammered as his fingers found the straps. This was the moment, she realized. Whatever he had been hiding, whatever final secret remained, was about to be revealed not just to her but to the entire watching world. The mask came away slowly. Gasps erupted throughout the room. But Emma barely heard them, because she was staring at Nathan's fully visible face for the first time under the harsh scrutiny of public attention. He looked younger without the mask, more vulnerable. His expression a mixture of fear and something that looked heartbreakingly like love. The crowd's reaction intensified. Phones appeared, despite security protocols. Someone screamed Nathan's full name. A reporter outside the tower began shouting into her microphone about the reclusive billionaires. First public appearance in 5 years. But Nathan's attention never wavered from Emma. He mouthed 2 words. Trust me. Then, before Emma could process what was happening, Nathan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black velvet box. Different from the one that had held her wedding ring. He held it out to her with hands that shook visibly. Emma Chen, he said, his voice amplified by microphones but directed entirely at her. Before we complete this ceremony, I need to give you something. Not because our contract demands it, but because you deserve to know the full truth about what this marriage means to me. Emma took the box with numb fingers, aware that millions of people were watching, but unable to care about anything except the intensity in Nathan's eyes. She lifted the lid slowly. Inside sat not jewelry but a legal document folded into a small square. Emma carefully extracted it, her hands trembling as she unfolded the paper and began to read. The words blurred together at first, legal terminology swimming before her eyes. But then certain phrases jumped out with startling clarity. Medical Foundation, established with an initial endowment of $500 million. Dedicated to providing free health care for children whose families cannot afford treatment. Primary beneficiaries to be selected by Emma Chen, with full administrative control granted to. Emma's voice failed. Her vision swam with tears. She looked up at Nathan, unable to comprehend what she was reading. Nathan's voice was thick with emotion when he spoke. You asked me once why I needed this marriage. The truth is, my family required it to unlock certain trusts. But the moment I met you and Lily, the moment I saw how much you sacrificed for her, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with that money. This foundation is yours, Emma. Not because you married me, but because you showed me what true love and sacrifice look like. You reminded me why wealth should matter, what it should be used for. The ballroom erupted in chaos. Guests stood, voices rising in shock and disbelief. The livestream comments exploded so rapidly the text became unreadable. News anchors outside interrupted their coverage to report the unprecedented wedding gift. $500 million. A foundation bearing Emma's name. Complete control granted to an 18-year-old girl from Brooklyn. But Emma heard none of it. She stared at Nathan through her tears and saw the truth written across every line of his face. This was not a contract. This was not a transaction. This was a man who had fallen in love with her and her sister, who had chosen to honor that love in the most profound way he knew how. Why? She whispered, the single word encompassing everything she could not articulate. Nathan stepped closer, close enough that only she could hear his response. Because when Claire died, I thought I'd never feel anything again. One built walls. So high that I convinced myself I was protecting others when really I was just hiding. Then you walked into that coffee shop looking terrified and brave and so determined to save your sister that you'd agree to marry a stranger. You reminded me what courage looks like, what love looks like. His voice cracked. You saved me, Emma. Long before I could save you, the officiant cleared his throat awkwardly, trying to regain control of the ceremony that had become something far more significant than anyone had anticipated. Shall we continue? Document in her hands, at Lily crying happy tears in the front row, at the future spreading before them like an unwritten story. The contract that had brought them together seemed suddenly irrelevant. A technicality in something that had transformed into genuine connection. Yes, Emma said, her voice steady despite her tears. Let's continue. A kiss when the officiant finally pronounced them married. Nathan cupped Emma's face gently in his hands, his touch reverent and careful. I know our agreement said no expectations, he murmured, so only she could hear. But may I kiss you? Not for the cameras or the show, but because I've wanted to since the day I met you. Emma answered by rising on her toes and closing the distance between them. The kiss was soft and brief, yet it contained everything words could not express. Fear and hope, grief and healing, contract and choice. All woven together into something neither of them had planned, but both desperately needed. The ballroom erupted in applause. But Emma barely heard it. She was too focused on the way Nathan's arms wrapped around her like a promise. The way he trembled slightly as if afraid she might disappear. The way his whispered thank you against her hair sounded more like I love you. As they turned to face the crowd together, Emma caught sight of herself and Nathan on one of the unauthorized live stream displays, someone had pulled up on their phone. They looked impossibly young standing there. Two people who had stumbled into each other's lives through desperation and circumstance, but had found something neither had been searching for. The foundation document pressed against Emma's side where she had tucked it carefully. $500 million to help children like Lily. Hundreds of families saved from the nightmare Emma had lived through. Lives changed because Nathan had chosen to transform his grief into healing. Later, as they navigated through crowds of congratulations and questions, as reporters screamed for statements and cameras flashed from every direction, Nathan leaned close to Emma and whispered, "I know we said 6 months, but I'm hoping you might consider something longer, maybe forever." Emma squeezed his hand, the wedding bands they now both wore glinting under the chandelier light. "Let's start with tomorrow and see where that takes us." Nathan's smile, free from masks and pretense, was the most beautiful thing Emma had ever seen. The live stream would go on to become the most watched wedding in internet history. The foundation would save thousands of children within its first year. The tabloids would speculate endlessly about whether the marriage was real or strategic, but none of that mattered to Emma and Nathan as they drove home that evening with Lily asleep between them in the back seat. What mattered was the quiet promise they had made to each other. Not in front of millions of viewers, but in the small, sacred space between two people who had learned that sometimes the most unexpected arrangements lead to the most extraordinary love. The contract had brought them together, but it was everything that happened after signing it that made them family. And that was the real gift, the one that shocked everyone most of all, including themselves. The end.